What's up, you guys? Slim here at Team Symmetry, here to bring you guys part 2 of bringing back some Psychology Returns, side decking for the current meta. Very happy with the response from the first video. I want to thank you guys so much for that. Got a lot of likes, a lot of positive feedback. People were talking about other decks in it. You guys have to realize that part 1 was only on 3 decks. It was only on Wind-Ups, Merlanians, and Macro Rabbit. The reason why I chose those is I feel as those were the 3 most played decks of the format right now. On this episode, I'm going to conclude with some of the other decks. I probably won't get to every deck in the format just because like new decks are starting to pop up, but I feel that I can cover the majority of what you'll see at like a locals or regionals or a YCS for the time being. I'm not going to talk about Fire or anything like that yet because it hasn't come out yet, but I'm going to talk about Dark World, Chaos Dragons, Geargia, Machina, you know, stuff like that. Decks that are good, they're just like on the lower end of the playing field. I'm going to talk about 6 Sams, you know, stuff like that. You guys already know. So we're going to start with Dark World. And we're going to start with Dark World because Dark World is one of those decks that I run myself like at locals or just for fun events. I never really took it to a YCS or anything. But I feel the deck's really good. And the reason why the deck's really good is that, I mean, Graph has a bitch. The ability to have a 3,000 attack monster pretty much at your disposal is ridiculous, and the ability to just kind of destroy your opponent's hand before they can even make a play makes the deck really broken. And people are wondering, you know, aside from the obvious, you know, what can you side against Dark World? What's really good against Dark World? If you think about it, Dark World kind of rely on a lot of the same things that other decks rely on. They rely on key cards to get their combos off. They rely on the ability to discard. They rely on the graveyard. And you see, that's where Dark World, I feel, has its flaws, is that if a deck has to rely that heavily on the graveyard, then it's very easy to counter. At the same time, you know, they can always pack in MSTs and stuff like that. So, I mean, you have to account for that. Once you account for that and you account for getting rid of Grapha, I think you're in a pretty good position. I feel that, like, in order to get around that deck, you just gotta know exactly what to hit. And I feel that once you hit Grapha, the deck kind of slows down. So we'll start with obvious. These hand traps are awful against the deck. People try to say Maxi's decent against it. It really isn't. You'll get a draw. You'll draw 1 if that. So the cards that are really relevant against that deck, obvious, Gemini Imps to stop Dark World dealings, drag down to the grave, card destruction, stuff like that. Self-explanatory. You get this off, you win basically, because they're left in a very hard position because they just minus themselves. They can't really get any. They can't get any of their discards off, and the Gemini Imps just let you draw a card. So this card's really, really good. I feel Gemini Imps is like a staple against that deck. Other cards you can use. The often forgotten DD Crow. DD Crow is really good because you can Crow Grapha. The ability to Crow Grapha is really, really good because the opponent is always going to summon a Dark World, bounce it back for Grapha. Once the Graphas are removed, their strongest monster, if they're not running Silva or Gold, is 2,000 in Snow with Gates of the Dark World, which means you need to have an addition. They need to have that additional card in play in order to get that boost. So I feel that DD Crow really puts in a lot of work against that deck. It's a very underrated card. It's also really good against Insectors, which I'm going to talk about as well. So DD Crow's in there as well. Other cards that I like are pretty obvious. Other cards are, of course, Soul Drain. Soul Drain, self-explanatory. It just smacks up their graveyard. They don't get any of their effects. They're just really screwed. This card just does wonders against them. And of course, the ever-relevant Shadow Mirror. You know, self-explanatory. Shut off their effects. Shut off their Tour Guide. This is really good because Soul Drain cannot hit Tour Guide. You need Skill Drain for that. And if you don't have Soul Drain, like the Tour Guide goes off, and granted they might not be able to get off their Dark World plays, but they can make a Zen Mains install and then eventually pop your Soul Drain or something. So I feel that you need to have cards like Shadow Mirror as well to combat Tour Guide and other on-field effects. So I feel Shadow Mirror and Soul Drain are really, really good. And then, of course, Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos. I'm not even going to bring out the macros. There's no point. You guys already know. But Dimensional Fissures, a lot of decks use this. This is decks like Wind-Ups, Insectors. They side deck this card. It's really, really good. Shut off their graveyard, you win the game. Very self-explanatory. Other things you can use is like Forms of Stall. I feel that sometimes you just don't draw that great. You need to use stall cards. I guess Messenger of Peace would be the best card to talk about just because this card's really good against Dino Rabbit. It's really good against big decks like Chaos Dragons. This is just really good against Dark World because if they've already used up the Grapha pops, sure, they can bounce for Grapha, but they can't attack, so you get time. It bides you time to fight back. So this card's really, really good. So that's Dark World. Very self-explanatory. I don't want to get into a lot about Dark World. Next is Chaos Dragons. So Chaos Dragons are kind of the same thing as Dark World for the fact that they just bring out big monsters. Now, how do you combat big monsters? You have to... Oh, last card I forgot to talk about in Dark World, of course. My MVP, Debunk. Card's amazing in the mirror match, amazing against water, amazing against Insectors, a lot of decks. This card's really, really good. Against Dark Worlds, you can just debunk their snow, debunk their any of the Dark Worlds that go off, debunk them. You really want to debunk Grapha, though. Debunk Grapha, they go like -2 because the monster is gone. They can't get it back if they're not running Trance Archfiend, so this card's just really, really good against that deck. Forgot to mention that one, but this card's MVP in my book. Next deck being Chaos Dragons. You need cards that can just really, you know, hurt that deck. Now, everyone says Thunder King's amazing. Yes and no. I think Thunder King is subpar against that deck for the fact that they can just tribute summon. Everyone forgets that Thunder King can only negate a special, so if they just go, okay, flip Raikou, target something else, and pop it, mill 3, tribute the Raikou, summon the Dark Flare or Light Pulsar, they just smack over Thunder King. So Thunder King I think is subpar, but it's decent at times. I think one of the best monsters and most underrated monsters in the game right now against that deck is Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, for the fact that Kaiku is a complete anti-Chaos Dragon card. It locks out their ability to remove cards, it lets you remove cards from their graveyard, and they get really, really screwed by this card. 1800 is nothing to laugh at. You can run over a Lila and remove cards from the grave. I use this card when I ran Dino Rabbit because it attacked their graveyard, and the ability to remove all their lights or all their darks and leave them with nothing was really, really crucial to winning that game. Kaiku is definitely an MVP. It's good against a lot of decks, but definitely really good against Chaos Dragons. I really like it. Other cards, underrated cards, Fossil Dyna. Fossil Dyna is the nuts. Like, literally, this card is good against so many decks. It's good against Dino Rabbit. It's good against Samurais. It's good against so many decks this format. I feel that Fossil Dyna is a very underrated card. Some decks main deck it, some decks side deck it. It's definitely a card that you should consider, though, because the ability to lock out special summons is really crucial against that deck. Granted, they have Raikou and they have ways to get over it, but if you have your back row protection, you're good to go. So I think Fossil Dyna is a kind of a staple inside decks these days. Other cards you can use against a deck. Let's see, what do I have here? You know, hand traps. Hand traps are decent. I think Maxi and Valor are decent against them because, I mean, you know, Valor Alila, Valor something, Valor the Tour Guide, Valor just an effect or something, Valor the Red MD, Maxi to the Red MD or something. You know, like, there's ways to get pluses off these. They're not the most optimal cards against them, but they're not terrible either. You know, hand traps are hand traps. DD Crow, again, is, you know, hit or miss. You can remove the Red MD, remove a Pulsar, remove something. It just gives you options, and I think that that's always good. You always want to have options against decks like that. Form of spells, self-explanatory, Soul Taker, pop Light Pulsar, it misses its timing, really, really good. Pop any card that's in your way, you know, self-explanatory, remove monsters from the field, and you will, you know, be in the best shape to, you know, get to the opponent's life points. I feel Soul Taker is really, really good for the fact that it eliminates a problem card. I feel that's what Soul Taker does. I think it's really good that it helps Pulsar miss timing. That's big, like very big against that deck. Other cards I guess I can talk about are, let's see. It doesn't happen a lot, but if it ever did, if you're against a Light Pulsar Dragon, Leeching the Light, this is a very, this is a card for agents, which I'm going to get into next, but this card is solely for agents, but you could side it against dragons, because, I mean, they do have 3 Light Pulsars, they do have Lila, you can always, you know, bring out a monster. They have BLS as well, so they can bring out a monster, you know, use Leeching the Light, steal its attack, and go ba-boom, and you, like, win, so card's really underrated, too, I feel. Debunk's good against Pulsar and hand traps and whatnot. And even though they cite it themselves, I think the Messenger is good. It stalls out against big cards. Even though Lila pops it, at least it saves your other back row. And of course, Dimensional Fissure for everything, because they are very graveyard reliant as well. And I feel that that's where they suffer the most. So I feel those were the cards that you would want against Chaos Dragons. You know, if I forgot anything in this video, you know, just let me know. I always forget stuff, but this is what I had on me. Next, we're going to move on to Agents. I really like Agents, actually. I feel like Agents are just a really, really good deck. I feel that they have a lot of just, like, power through Master Hyperion. They have Christia to lock out everything. People are wondering, you know, what are your best bets against that deck? Again, I think Kaiku and Thunder King are really good against that deck. Thunder King's really good because of Earth. It's good against negating the XYZ summon of a Gotchi, the XYZ summon of a Dagusta Phoenix, whatever it is, depending on the board. These cards are really good. This helps remove cards from the graveyard. Locks out their ability to bring out their Chaos monsters and their Hyperion from the grave, using the effect of banishing from the graveyard. Really, really good. Granted, they can do it from their hand, but then they go -1 in their hand, so I think Kaiku's just really, really good. It's a very underrated card, this format. I think Kaiku's just amazing. You know, Dyna, again, is really good because it's, you know, it kills, like, everything. Let's see what else. DD Crow is subpar against that deck. I don't think DD Crow's that good. Hand traps, again, are just kind of self-explanatory. You hit or miss with those cards. It just depends on if you hit the right stuff or not. Veiler's good against the Venus. Veiler's good against other stuff. Maxi's really good. You know, like, you'll be guaranteed to draw stuff. If they go Venus, Shine Ball, you don't Veiler it, and then on the second one you draw, because if they leave dead Shine Balls, you know, they kind of lose. So Maxi's really good. Veiler's really good in that sense. Other cards, I guess... you know, you could use Doomcal. I'm just not going to bring out Doomcal. I think you could use Doomcal against that deck. But, you know, Hyperion can just attack over it, so I feel that could be a problem. Again, they do run high attack monsters like Hyperion and Christia. Messenger can help you stall. If you lock out their graveyard, they can be in somewhat of trouble. I think Dimensional Fissure is really good against them. Other cards that are really, really good against them are, of course, Leeching the Light. Now I'm going to talk about Leeching the Light. Leeching the Light is busted against that deck because every card in there is a light, so you can just make your monster gain 2,700 from Hyperion, you can make it gain 2,800 from Christia, and you can just run it over with, like, the smallest monster, so I think Leeching the Light's really good against that deck. Granted, good players can play around it, but, you know, you never know what you're going to play against, so... it just depends if you're comfortable siding Leeching the Light. Soul Taker is there again because Christia is a bitch. Like, I can't tell you how many times Christia can just, like, screw the whole game up for you, and your only way out is to remove it. You could use Smashing Ground. I do like Soul Taker, though, because Soul Taker is good against multiple matchups, whereas Smashing Ground is only good against certain ones. So Soul Taker, Smashing Ground, whatever your form of removal is, you need to have at least something in there to stop big monsters. So that's it for agents. Geargia, my friend Sharkboy's deck profile is up on my channel now. He ran Geargia Machina, which I really like. I prefer the Machina build myself because I feel that Fortress is a very solid card. So in order to stop that deck, basically you need to account for what makes the deck really good. Armor is really, really good. So of course, Thunder King's coming in the deck immediately, side deck immediately, because it stops them from searching. Even though it'll crash with it, at least it hinders their play, so that's really, really good. Cyber Dragon is self-explanatory. You know, they're all machines. You know, Contact, make Chimera Tech. System Down's really good because it, you know, it just eliminates all of them at the cost of 1,000 life points, and removing them is always better than leaving them in the graveyard to where they're susceptible to Pot of Avarice, Monster Reborn, Call, etc. Other card that's not here because I don't have it on me is Nobleman of Crossout. Cross out the armor, it's devastating. Pop the armor, it's devastating in general against that deck. So as long as you can do that, you're good. Veiler's good against them because Veiler the armor, they're in trouble. Anything to slow them down. And I think Max C is decent against them too, because when they start to go off, you'll know you drop Max C, draw some cards drawn out like a Tragodia, Veiler, etc., and you'll be good to go. So I think Max C is really good against that deck as well. In the forms of other cards, I don't really know, to be honest, because I've only played against Geargia once at Seattle, and I was able to win that match, but I haven't played against it enough to really know, you know, what else you can side against it besides Machine Hate and just, you know, just good cards to stop their effects. I think Doomcal is good again because Crash with Armor. Oh, Armor activates. Okay, negate. And I think that's really, really good. Other decks, I guess, Six Samurai, X-Sabers, other decks like that. X-Sabers, you guys already know you need Thunder Kings, Hand Traps, Dimensional Fissure, anything to lock out their graveyard. They are kind of graveyard reliant with Gothams, so I feel that really helps. When it comes to decks like Samurai, I'm only going to talk about one card. Everyone forgets about this card. Puppet Plant's really good. Now, everyone forgets about this card because, you know, Six Samurai side Dimensional Fissure, but if they don't, Puppet Plant's broken. You take their Shein or any of their monsters, overlay with them, or do whatever you want. This is pretty busted, to be honest. Like in Chaos Dragons once, I sided, this was a long time ago, but I had a Dark Flare. He had a Shein. I go, Puppet Plant, take it, attack, overlay. Yeah, it was good. So this card's really underrated against that deck. He's really good. So that's something to think about against Six Samurai, aside from all, you know, the basic stuff. But I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered like every main deck that's played right now. We've gone through Wind-Ups, Macro Rabbit, Merlanians, Six Samurai, Sabers. What is it? We've gone through Dark World. We've gone through just kind of Chaos Dragons. Every deck in the format, Geargia, etc. I guess other decks like Madolche, decks like Prophecy. Thunder King's good against pretty much everything. Thunder King, like I said, is the card of the format because this card is just good against everything. So I feel that optimal side decking just depends on your preference. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is everyone saying, you know, how do you build the proper side deck? So I'm just going to go with something that one of my really good friends taught me, and that's you're siding against what your opponent's siding against you. So let's say you're running Dark World. You know they're siding Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosm, Shadow Mirror, Soul Drain, etc. You got to side MSTs. You got to side back row removal. You got to side stuff like that. If you're playing decks like Water, the same thing. You both are susceptible because you're in the graveyard. You just have to pack back row destruction. As if you're running Rabbit, you have to pack cards like Dust Tornado, not Royal Decree, but Dust Tornado, MSTs, extra stuff to get rid of the back row. You know they're going to try and hurt your plays before you get them off, so that's really important. Decks like Agents, they don't run that much back row depending on what they are, so you need to know that you need to side cards to hit their monsters like Soul Taker and Leeching to hit their key cards. If you're playing against a deck that's relying on the graveyard, side Dimensional Fissure, side Macrocosmos. My advice is never side more than 2 if you can afford to, because you need room for other cards, and that's something I've learned the hard way. I've sided 3 Gemini Imps when I've only needed 2. I've sided only 2 when I've needed 3. I've had a lot of just kind of hit and miss with these cards. So I feel the best advice is to side optimally for every deck in the format, and if you do, you will be successful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. I'm glad to bring it back. If I forgot any decks, remind me. I'll be sure to include them in an upcoming Sim Psychology. But this can just help you guys for the rest of this format. The format will change as soon as all the fire stuff comes out, and in March the list will change again. But right now, I think that this is the best advice I can give as a player and what I see in the current format. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thumbs it up. And, give me some topics for Slim Psychology, you guys. Like, I really like listening to your guys' feedback. I like listening to all the trolls, all that other shit. It really does entertain me at times, just so people know. I always know there's always someone here that has to have a problem with the videos. It's fine. You're never going to get a response from me, in case people ever wondered. I never respond to anybody that puts stupid comments. It's really not worth my time. Best line I ever heard from Drake is that, without a response from me, you really fail to exist. So, that's my whole philosophy. I don't respond to you, you really don't exist, and you don't really mean shit in the long run. So, it doesn't matter to me. But, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thumbs it up. And, I promise after this video, the HD videos will return. I am going to be getting, hopefully better lighting and other stuff for these videos. The room I'm in is not that great. It's kind of old and it doesn't have the best lighting, so I think I'm going to be moving probably to my living room or my pantry or something just to get better lighting for you guys. If not, get better lights here in this room soon. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thumbs it up. Let me know what you guys want to see. I'll be doing more back in the days. I'll be doing more Tech for Thought. I'll be doing more The Good, the Bad, and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Coming up in the following weeks. I just hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thumbs it up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to AlterRealityGames.com. Check out a lot of the articles there. We're going to be having some videos going up on their YouTube as well. We already did one with Joe Bogley, and I hope that we get to do more with the rest of the ARG in time. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.